Hello and happy Friday. I am excited for today's episode. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Sarah Vittori. She is the owner. Wow, that was a very Boston.
Yes, I'm Massachusetts over here.
I
It's
wish I
great.
edited. Let's try that again. Sarah is the owner of Soma Synthesis Studios, where she creates spaces for healing, integration, and expansion to cultivate wellness, vitality, thriving, and wholeness across all layers of being. Through one-on-one somatic and peak performance coaching, hands-on healing somatic integration sessions, nervous system nourishment retreats, group workshops, dream work sessions, couples coaching, consultation, and so much more. Sarah supports leaders, entrepreneurs, and busy humans to expand their capacity to be in the flow of life and business with more ease, without overwhelm or burnout, in order to access their potential. She's a somatic experiencing practitioner, peak performance coach, level 2 MELT method instructor, intuitive healer, and a homeschooling mom. Sarah lives in Belchertown, Mass, with her husband and 2 boys. And we'll put all of her contact information in the show notes, where you can find her at sarahvittori.com or peakperformancewithsarah.com. Sarah, thank you so much for being here today. Sarah and I met on a networking group, I don't know, a month or so ago, and we were both like, we need to talk more and be on each other's podcasts.
Awesome. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Sarah, so share with the listeners your journey and who you are. And there's a lot under there. So let's dig into all the things.
Yes, awesome. Love to start in that place. And it's sort of like my journey from this moment, right? And when we're asked that question and then it changes and it shifts.
Of course.
So I am the mom of 2 boys. So I really, mom and motherhood is a big identity and hat that I'm wearing. I just sent my eldest off to college for his first semester, and we've been homeschooling our youngest, who's just turning 11 next month, since COVID. So we're starting our 5th year, which is kind of hard to believe.
Wow.
And I've been running my business for the last 8 years, but before that, sort of what feels like a lifetime ago, I was a guidance counselor in a high school, and I did that work for 5 years. But day one, I stepped into that school and went, oh no, no one taught me about politics. Nobody taught me about some of these kind of stickier situations. And I was pretty miserable right away. Good at my job, good at turning it on, right? A lot of us women are really good at like just cranking it on and wearing
Make
that
it
mask.
to make it, I would say,
Yes,
right? Yep.
absolutely. Or acting as if everything's awesome.
Yeah.
But very quickly I started to burn out. I started to navigate chronic illness and pain. And that first year, my father sort of said to me, he's a internationally known peak performance coach and has been in the field for 40 years. So he said, why don't you come work for me? And so while I was a guidance counselor, I went through the somatic experiencing training, which is a modality that works with our body and our nervous system, and looking at our mammalian responses and our biology and how that governs our choices and behavior and all the things. And I completely woke up from being pretty shut down. And shut down, right, there can be 2 kinds. We can be like, can't get out of bed, shut down. And then there's many of us who are in this overachieving, I'm stuck on a hamster wheel and I'm doing all of the right things and I can't get off. And that really was how I was, so much so that it was completely destroying my body and I was oblivious to that. And so doing that training, that's a 3-year training, I was doing that simultaneously while I was working at the high school. I started there was a lot of healing that started to happen and a lot of awakening for me around, oh, I can have my own ideas and thoughts that are different from other people. And like, I actually have an opinion about things and I actually like want different things. And I had gotten pregnant my senior year in college on birth control, surprise. And and so that for me was, I'd always wanted to be a mother, and so I made the choice to keep the baby, and that just became my identity, and that was a really easy role to slot into for me as a growing up as caretaker and So I hadn't known anything other than sort of the motherhood and have tos and shoulds and doing the job. And so I started to really just open up to like, wow, what am I doing? What do I want to be doing? What am I doing? And I remember the exact moment. It was like 1 a.m. and I was working on letters of recommendation because as a guidance counselor, you have to write your letters for all your seniors, and I had a caseload of 250 students. So it's a lot of letters to
Oh
write.
my gosh.
And I had this sort of aha of like, whoa, what would it be like if I put all this energy and time and effort into something that just belonged to me, into something that was mine? And like, I couldn't fail. Like, I mean, I worked so hard at, doing this thing for other people. I was like, there's no way I'm going to fail. Like, I work really hard. Like, I can make this work. And so that following summer, I took what I called medical leave, but then never went back to address a lot of the issues, autoimmune issues that were going on in my body, the ways that my body was shutting down, and start to really explore and create for myself, like, what do I want to do? What are the rhythms that my body wants to be in? Because that was the other thing I think about working that was really a problem for my system, which was I was getting up really early in the morning to bring my then toddler to daycare, and I had to be at the school by 6:20 a.m. and there's the commute, and then I'm not getting home till 5. I mean, there was just a lot of output my body was doing, and I wasn't listening to what it needed. And so quitting the job and being able to address sort of what was being asked for of my body started to bring in a lot of healing. And so that coupled with a lot of the somatic work, body work that I was focused on, nervous system healing, I started to resolve a lot of the issues that were showing up in my system on my own. And really felt passionate about sharing that with other people. And so right away in that fall, I built my first website. I taught myself how to do all the back end of everything. Actually made 2 websites because I work with athletes too. And I work with just everyday humans. And I haven't looked back at all. There was no, should I go back? Should I not go back? It was just exploded in terms of
Nice.
it working. Yeah.
Nice. I love that. So let's just take a step back. Like when you say
Sure.
somatic, I know what that means, but for listeners that may be new to healing and opening up a little bit, just walk us through, like, what does it mean to do somatic work, somatic healing?
Absolutely. And I think it's a buzzword now. It's like
Yeah,
all over the
everybody's saying
place.
it. Yeah, exactly.
And 8 years ago, I put nervous system healing on my website. Everyone said to me, why do you have that? No one's going to know what that is. And I was
Right.
like, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, somatic means body. Soma, at the root of that, is body in Greek. And so, somatic work, therapy, which I'm not, but somatic coaching or working with a somatic practitioner is really involving your body in some way. So inviting and healing and creating space for the body to have a voice, because there's so many ways that we ignore or override or pretend what's happening isn't happening. And so the work that I'm trained in is really a nervous system modality. So our nervous system governs our behavior because we're wired as mammals to survive. So we have a lot of automatic things that our body does that we're often not aware of. So if you're working with coaching with me, we're doing a lot of exploration around, okay, how is our body designed to work? And what are those cycles of productivity and energy and creativity in life? And then rest and digestion and sleep and healing. And how do we get our body syncing in those ways? So a lot of people who want to work with me have done a lot of therapy and they like know what they want to change. They've done all these things and they've been doing it for a long time and they know, but they just can't quite get themselves to do the thing or to not do the thing. Setting
Right.
boundaries is a big one, right? Like
Yeah.
saying no, not being able to say no, or feeling guilty as parents if we're taking time for ourselves. So all the ways we feel a thing or we're triggered or reactive and we don't want to be, that's where somatic work can really come in handy. It's sort of the foundation of everything. Like I can mindset myself all I want. If my body's not on board, if my body feels fear in some way, whether it's actual or perception or memory of, that's going to kind of override and dictate then my reactions, my behavior, how I'm showing up. And
Yeah, I love
so,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I'm an EFT. One of the modalities I do is EFT, emotional
Oh,
freedom
yeah.
technique, right? So that's working at the subconscious level too, right? So
Yes.
it's like and I teach my clients, like, where do you feel that in your body? And
Yes.
oftentimes I can feel what they
Yeah.
feel,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, where do you feel that? And they're like, my chest. I'm like, yeah, so let's breathe into that. But so often we don't want to feel,
Sure.
we just keep pushing forward, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was having a conversation earlier today, and I was saying, there's in society, there's the way we numb our feelings is we
Mhm.
overdrink, we overeat, we do drugs, and we keep
Right.
ourselves busy. The problem with the first three is those are not socially acceptable. But the
Right.
fourth one is like, at a girl, right?
Yeah,
Look at you
absolutely.
go. And we're ignoring the body saying, oh my God, stop, 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 stop.
Absolutely.
And I'm someone who used to weigh 300 pounds, so not feeling the feelings is
Yeah.
something I was
Yeah.
really familiar with, right? But when I start to feel things in my body, I'm like, huh, okay, well, that's really good information. What's happening?
Yeah.
What are we
Yeah.
feeling? And I will either tap on it or journal or do whatever tools I have. But my listening to it and feeling it, where before I just pushed through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's so funny too is that we are pushing through because we think that's what's going to get us there faster, or that's what we need to be doing in some way. But it actually is sabotaging ourselves, because if I'm pushing, but I'm exhausted, if I'm pushing, but I'm super stressed out, I'm not going to have access to my fullest creative potential. I'm not going to have access to sort of my fullest life force energy. So when we start to listen to the body and create space for slowing down, starting to train the body to feel safe to slow down, because for many of us, it's not safe, either ancestrally or in our family systems. Like, it would be lazy if you rested. I know in my family, it was, you had to go get home from school, you'd go to dance, you'd do all your homework. And then at that point, if it wasn't bedtime, you could have a minute, but you had to get everything done
Done, right.
first.
Yeah.
And
For
that,
me, my worthiness is attached to it, right? I'm
yeah,
only worth anything to you if I'm doing for you,
yes,
right?
yes,
So I'm always doing because that's where my worthiness comes in,
yes,
right? So it's like
yes.
I was telling somebody recently, I don't know, a year or so ago, I had canceled a workshop I was going to attend. So I had 3 days off. And the first morning I got up and I started reading my book. And all of a sudden I felt anxious. I was like, oh, I have to go do some work. And I was like, well, but you have no work to do because you weren't even supposed to be home. So I tapped on it, right?
Yep.
I did my tapping and some journaling. And really what it was if my worthiness is attached to it. So sitting there, so I had to allow myself to sit there and feel that uncomfortableness.
Yes.
Because if I did, just in the past, I would have had that feeling come up, but I wouldn't even have known
Right.
it
Right.
was it was a message. This
Right.
now, with all the work I've done, I knew it was a message. I was like, all right, we got to pay attention because
Yeah.
something is coming up because you're relaxed, but you're feeling anxious right now. So what is it?
Right. For sure.
Now, how do you help people with their health, right? So you said you helped heal yourself. So how does that play into all of this?
Yeah. So I'm trained in lots of different modalities that have to do with the body and the nervous system and the connective tissue. And really, we have innate healing potentials that we can be syncing within the body. And when the body is given enough time and space, it actually can come into completion of self-protective programs that might have been thwarted or stuck or gotten in the way. So we all have survival responses, and there are buzzwords all over social media: fight, flight, freeze, fawn, appease. And when we're not able to be in those expressions, whether we're intentionally stopping them or not, like I might stop myself from raging out at my teenager because it's not appropriate to do so, but that doesn't mean I don't still feel that in my body, and I
Right,
might shove
right.
that, right? Then that fight response gets stuck. And then for upsetting experiences, like if we grew up in a family where we like couldn't cry or show emotion, and so we learned how to swallow it and keep on a brave face, or if you've had injury or accidents. So car accidents are a great example of, like, you're stuck, you're trapped in the vehicle and you can't survive, and so you can't get out, escape. And so a lot of that highly charged energy gets really stuck in the body. And so what I do with people is really helping them understand how the cycles can move through. And when we create the space, it actually, sensation comes up and is able to kind of come out and express and come into completion. And so then all of that highly charged energy isn't stuck in the body in a way. So we're really looking at listening deeply to the body. We're looking at like reconnecting the ways that we've maybe ignored the signals and messages from our nervous system. So that's a big piece of healing, which is like listening to the body, learning how to listen to the body, learning how to pay attention, learning how to listen to sort of the subtle ways that the nervous system is communicating. And then for those people who are coming more with chronic illness or coming with pain or coming with acute injury from accident or trauma, then we're really helping them work with their body so that either through facilitation where I have hands-on and working directly with their nervous system and their fluid system, or through virtual where they're learning how to track their nervous system and we're bringing things into completion, people are learning how to access and really activate the self-healing potential that we have literally in our nervous system, in our connective tissue system, and in our fluid system.
Ooh, that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
But we are so much. You keep saying completion. Tell me a little bit more about what that means.
So we have self-protective programs that come online when our body or system is sensing danger. It can be actual danger, it can be memory of danger, or perception of danger. And so if I am in a setting and someone comes towards me and is going to attack me, I might run away because I feel smaller, and that would be self-protective, or I might fight them, or I might get trapped because I feel like I can't fight them, or I feel like I can't run away. And so when we're not able to be in that expression of that survival energy when we are in those different kinds of situations, and these can be sort of like acute things that's like a one-time thing, or it could be just I grew up in a family where anger wasn't allowed.
Right.
Right. And I'm constantly shoving anger and not knowing it. Right. Maybe sometimes I do, but mostly I'm not. And that's sort of my story. Like my parents came from very abusive households. And so they worked so hard to
Yeah.
make sure there was no anger in our house. Right. But there was no anger in our house.
Everybody was
There was
pissed off all the
anger
time
all
and
the
nobody, right?
time.
Yep.
Absolutely. But I
Yeah.
learned, like, I was scared of being around anyone who was angry, was terrified of people
Yeah.
being mad at me. I got anxious if I felt like I needed to be angry. I shut that down. I really shut that down. And so that gets trapped and stuck in the body in layers and churns in a way and breaks down the body. It then causes chronic illness. It causes anxiety. It causes depression, all of the ways it just stays stuck. And so if I'm working with someone like me, what we would be doing is creating space for the body to start to be in whatever expression that it needs to be in. So when the body is in a contained place where the body actually feels some element of safety and protection, it then will start to unwind the layers that might be stuck. So if I was working with me on this, I might, we might be bringing up an issue and then helping the person sort of notice in their body, what are you noticing? And they might say, oh, my palms are really sweaty right now. And then we would pay attention to the palms. And then they'd say, oh, I'm feeling my fingers starting to move. And I might say, oh, cool. What are you noticing? And then they might say, oh, they're making fists. And I was, oh, neat. What do they want to do? And we're starting to follow the impulse of the body. And so that might lead to like, I want to protect, or I want to punch someone. And then we're allowing those movements in a small way come out and express. And so then there can be some completion of that self-protective response that wasn't able to be accessed. So this happens a lot with car accident people. Like my husband was in a pretty bad car accident and we immediately did some hands-on work. I did it 3 days in the row after this car accident. The first day, as I had my hands on his body, his leg was going like he was trying to step on the brake. Right. So he's not making his body doing that. His body's just like break, 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 break.
Right.
and you hold the body and you let the body just be contained. You're safe. What do you need to do? Like you have containment, and the butt break, break, break until it slows, settles, and dissipates, right? Second night, seatbelt, chest, right? His chest was going because he was trapped in a seatbelt because his airbag went off and he was trapped in the car. So his chest was trying to go, trying to go, trying to go, to the point where then his arm went like this by the end of that session. So he was really trying to push away the airbag and the seatbelt, right? And that, so all that highly charged energy is stuck in there. And then the third day was some anger came up around the teenager that hit him, so it's does that make sense in terms of what I mean by
Yeah.
completion?
Yeah. So, do you work hands-on? So you're more of a, I'm going to call it healer versus coach. Would you
I
say
would say both. I
both?
would
Okay.
definitely both. So I
Okay.
do, I would say about 70% of my work is virtual, and those clients are either coaching clients where they're wanting to learn about their stress physiology, they're not sleeping, they're in a lot of pain, they're being reactive with their families, and so it's concrete frameworks, tools, and strategies that they're starting to implement and shift and change or train their brain mindset wise to do something different. So there's like that cohort of clients that I'm working with. I also work a lot with entrepreneurs who have imposter syndrome or dealing with confidence issues, because I do work a lot with athletes and performers. And so there's a lot of frameworks that you can start to understand that then help you access your potential when you're on a podcast, when you're in front of the camera, when you're putting yourself out there and feeling vulnerable because it's like your stuff, in the world and the business. And then I also have what I would call a healing practice where I'm in an office 2 days a week. I work with people on a table where we're directly addressing their nervous system. I'm also trained in biodynamic cranial sacral therapy, which is working a lot with the different bones in the head and with the different organ systems. So I blend all of that to the healing sessions, but that's all about creating space for the body to be in whatever layer of expression is ready to move.
Okay. And when you're working with the entrepreneurs or the athletes on the
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, are you still doing the same type of work, or is it really two different?
No, it's very similar. It's
Okay.
I won't use as, like, shall we say, woo-woo language when I'm,
Yeah.
more in that genre. It's more around, this is the science of your nervous system. This is the science of how your brain works. These two things are impacting how you're showing up. And so these are the things we need to start to do in order to meet that. With the people that come for like healing sessions, it's less talk, there's less talking. We're just giving the body
You're
more
on the
time.
table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can you do that table work virtually?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I've been doing more and more. I call those recalibrate sessions. So those are 90-minute sessions
Yeah.
where you get to just lie down. And then,
Right. Well, I mean, I
yeah,
know I do different healing modalities and they can be done virtually, but I know there are
yeah,
some that can't. So I'm
yeah,
always curious, because to me, energy is energy,
yeah,
right? Like it
absolutely.
doesn't, I actually sometimes like doing the virtual sessions because, in person, when you place your hand and the client feels something, they instantly, what was that, right? They're trying to logically, even myself as a healer, I've done that. I'm like, ooh, what just happened? I have my hand, like I'm processing it because of what's
Yeah,
happening, right? But virtually, I feel like it takes the human element
yeah.
out of that.
That's
So
an
yeah.
interesting point. Yeah.
So tell me about the melt method. So is that what we're talking about, or is that something separate?
That's something different. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a modality that I'm bringing in and weaving into my work. So the method is something that was developed by a manual therapist, so someone who worked with bodies and moving bodies like a massage therapist to get positioning, because she was trying to recreate her treatments on the table. So it's a modality that uses these little rubber balls and super super large soft foam rollers that are very soft. So not firm like at the gym. These are like you can bend it in half.
Okay.
And I'm teaching people how to use those and do simple hand and foot treatments with the balls and different sequences on the roller. And it hydrates our connective tissue system, which is this 3D fluid matrix that houses all of our muscles and bones, and our nervous system receptors live in the fluid. And so from aging and from repetitive movements, like you and I are both sitting on our butts right now, right? Like we're compressing our tissue.
Yeah.
Our tissue dehydrates and it gets very stiff like a dry sponge. So any knots you've got, stiffness in the morning when you wake up, all those things, that's your pre-pain signals from your connective tissue system. So when we start to melt and do these different treatments, we are flushing the system so that we're creating more ease in the body, we're releasing pain, stress, we're facilitating and promoting healing. I love melt because it settles your nervous system every time you use it. So for clients who are doers and have trouble meditating or trouble focusing, it gives you something to like actually do with your hands or your body. And then it brings the body into that down regulated, like resting state. And it's a great tool that I use a lot for people who are like chronically stressed or holding a lot of illness in their body. And it's just a way to get sort of underneath things at the tissue level without having to sort of like think our way through breathing or meditating or that kind of piece.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I've heard of melts before,
Yeah.
but I wasn't, it sounded familiar. So tell me about, like, do you work with people that have um terminal illness like cancers or super chronic or bone on bone arthritis? Like how do any of
Yeah.
these methods work with the big things?
Yeah, the big things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have worked with a number of people who are having sort of at different stages of different kinds of illness. So I work a lot with people who have chronic fatigue or arthritis or, more chronic pain syndromes and really utilize the melt method because melt really takes the edge off immediately. You do one thing and you can really feel a difference physically in the body. So we're creating space for the body to have a little relief. And so I do find that I get a number of those kinds of clients. And then also I've worked with a number of people who come in on the table who are navigating more serious medical issues that then get resolved, whether it's from whatever they're doing in combination to what we do, or they're looking for more of like a long-term pain management, or they're going to have surgery or heal from surgery. So I do that a lot because the modalities that I'm trained in really help prep the body to sort of be in a peaceful place when you go under for anesthesia, but also help clear the anesthesia sort of fuzz that can happen and brain fog that gets stuck and trapped in the
I'll be
body.
calling you next month when I have knee replacement surgery.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But it's interesting. You talk about your body, and so I have a lot of arthritis. And last year I had a hip replacement. This year I'm having a knee. And what I realized a few months ago, that I would get up and I would make sounds like I was in pain even when I wasn't. And I
Yes.
caught myself and I was like, what are you doing? Right? It was because I'm so used to just being in pain that I
Absolutely.
sound like I'm a 90-year-old woman. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, what are you doing? Because I was training my body to
Yeah.
be in pain. So I've actually had to
Yeah.
be like, oh, no, we don't do that. No,
Right.
stop. We don't do
Right.
that.
Right. And that is when we listen to our body, right? When we're in so much pain, right?
Yeah.
Like those are the times. And our body is wired to notice when there's dysfunction. And so when we do live with chronic pain, we have to make a really big effort to bring our attention to other places in our body or to notice when we have relief in small ways, because being in pain for extended periods of time, for years at a time, for months at a time, it's exhausting.
And you
It's
just get used to it,
and
right?
you
Like for
do it
me, I
100%.
think I've been in it for so long. I still live my
Yeah.
life, right? We
Yeah.
were away last week and we were in Newport, Rhode Island, and I walked 14,000 steps one day. That's a lot for someone who needs a knee replacement in a month. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, I was like, ow, right? But I
Yeah.
wasn't going to stop myself from enjoying my vacation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I also made a note to self. Let's just compare this to next year at this
Yeah.
time and see how much you can walk.
Yeah.
What is something that you live by that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, what an interesting question. Yeah, I think that healing is possible and that living without so much pain and discomfort is possible. I think that when we are really not feeling good, it feels like we're going to be stuck that way all the time. Or even if we're having a harder emotional time or we're having difficulty with a partner or a child, that shifting and change is possible. Everything's always moving, everything is energy. And especially when things are hard, that's even highly charged energy. That's like a lot of movement. And so things really do get to shift. And the way that we start that is by creating space to start to pay attention and tune into like what is actually true for us, what's true for our body, what's true for how we feel. There's so much information that's coming at us all the time in lots of different directions, opinions from people that we care about and love or that we respect, from our communities, from the government, from all different things. And so if we're not prioritizing creating space to tune into ourselves, then we're going to really keep getting stuck in this autopilot or the hamster wheel or be confused a lot of the time and foggy. And usually that's indication that we need a little space so that we can actually access what's important and what's true to so that we can thrive.
I love that. I love that. Um, what would you say to somebody who is like, because there are people out there that just think, this is it. The reality is I have a broken shoulder. The reality is I have this. The reality is, how do you, or do you even work with clients that aren't open to healing their body, right?
Yeah.
But how do you, naysayer, I don't know, non-believers yet, right?
Non-believers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that if you're reaching out to me, you've done some healing work.
Okay.
Because I do think although somatic has been sort of more mainstream as of late, it's
Right.
still not particularly widely known. So a
Yeah.
lot of people who find me were told by a therapist, by a friend, by someone, hey, you need to look into the somatic thing.
Okay.
So, with people who don't buy in, you have to buy in, like, because,
Right.
there's a piece of this of like, we have to believe that it's possible, or our body is going to keep being stuck or frustrated or caught in the same cycle that it's in. And so for me with naysayers, I go back to like, and what I geek out on, I can go really out there and in the different realms. And all of the stuff that I'm talking about is firmly rooted in what we know scientifically
Yeah.
around the body, around the nervous system, around epigenetics and how we grow in utero, around what's possible for change and what's possible for shifting behavior. And so I usually just sort of bring people to different like scientists who are doing studies on things and
Yeah.
have like concrete evidence so it can be like, hey, I'm not like making this up to make this up. Like there are actual things that our body does where health is possible. And usually if I can at least get someone to buy in for a minute and then they start to feel the shifts or notice some of the new awarenesses that we're kind of making connections about, then we have buy-in. And then there's like a little bit more possibility and
Right.
potential in that.
Yeah. Well, and I think they want evidence too, right?
Oh,
Show me
absolutely.
some evidence of
Yeah.
it. I'm going to go a little woo here.
Yeah. Love the
How do
woo.
you think past life stuff, like, do you believe in past life stuff? And
Yes.
how does that affect us physically? And
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Love this question. And I think it's like the deeper that we go into topics, so the deeper I dive into somatics, the less we know.
Right.
So, from some of the research, they're showing is that we're holding and carrying within our structure and our cellular system 7 generations back. And then, because we're in this quantum field where time is stacked, that means 7 forward, right? So, and so within that, we are growing in our mother's wombs to survive in their reality. So we're holding a lot of ancestral patterns at a cellular level. And then the being that comes through, or the soul, however you identify with that languaging that comes into the body, right, also has lived these past lives where they've, developed patterns, developed things that helped them survive in that in those lifetimes, and then we then stack that into the body. So oftentimes when I'm working with people, we want to know why. Why does this happen? Why do I feel this way? What's this pain about? Like, we're trying to, and I do this with my body too. Okay, I fell. What meaning is this? It's my left hip. What does this mean? Is this past life? Is this? And so with the body stuff, what I do a lot with people is it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Are we processing past life? I don't know. Are we processing your mom's stuff? Not sure. Your childhood stuff? Doesn't matter. We're just giving the space for the body to unwind and unfurl all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So on a table, when I have clients on a table, it can be, a range of people's experiences and my own. I've been having, this somatic work. I've been receiving it for over a decade at this point, and I've had past life flashes. I've had ancestral flashes. I had a whole session where I was working something out in my arm, and a lifetime I was a dragon, and I could feel a wing. And it had gotten injured, and I was dealing with the shoulder thing. And I have shoulder issues. Is it just from that? Is it from other things?
Right.
Doesn't know. We're letting it come up, cycle through, and clear.
Yeah.
Things come up, things flag, things get our attention because they're coming up to clear. They're coming up to be integrated. And so when we don't get too kind of like mashugany around, okay, what exactly does this mean? A lot of potential and healing is possible because we're just allowing things to move through.
Yeah, I recently had a past life experience on a table because the healer kept asking me questions and nothing felt like that was it. And she said, "Is this a past life thing?" And I was like, and I heard yes. And we were like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, all right, that could explain some stuff, right? Oh my gosh, I feel like we could talk forever.
I know.
But I know you have an offer that you want to provide to the listeners. It's the 3 daily practices to nourish your nervous system and expand your capacity to navigate life and business with more ease. You want to just share with, and we'll put all this in the show notes, but you want to just share with them a little bit what that is?
Sure. Yeah, it's a pretty extensive PDF because I don't do simple. As you can tell from our conversation today, I love the science piece. So it's really breaking down different practices that you can be in to start to be in this reconnection to your body in a lot of the ways that we're talking about. So the ways that you can start to listen to your nervous system, it goes over how our nervous system communicates, how to start to build awareness around how that's showing up, and then different things that you can be doing and weaving into your day-to-day life that will nourish your nervous system, that will start to heal your nervous system and provide more flow and ease. A lot of sort of like dysregulation, like when things are funky, it's because the nervous system keeps getting caught in different expressions or different nervous system states. And so the more that we can bring in an overall nourishment to the actual physiology in the system, to the tissues, the more easily that we can navigate hardships and challenges. And so, yeah, this PDF goes over lots of things to start to try right away.
Nice. I'll have to go get my own version of that PDF, so I will check that out too. So before every podcast interview, I pull 3 cards. So I have 3 cards in front of me, and you get to choose. So we have left, center, and right. And these are from our interesting. I love how, I didn't even realize this until just right now. It's the Secret of Ancestors Oracle.
Oh, cool.
Oftentimes the cards, I don't look at them, but there's often a theme of the conversation. So, all right. So left, center, right.
So my left, your right.
Yes. I love when Father God, radical truth.
Oh.
And let's just face it, the body is like, the body doesn't lie, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I teach I teach my clients how to muscle test.
Yeah, cool.
And I taught my 17-year-old niece recently and some of her friends, and they were like, what is that? That's crazy, right? Because I teach them as using their body as a
Awesome as a
pendulum.
pendulum.
And
Yeah.
I was like, so now when somebody wants you to do something, you should always muscle test because you're
That's
never
great.
gonna lie, right?
Oh,
Because
I love it.
there's so much truth in our body. The center is the high priestess, intuition and knowingness.
Yes, and that's what the body is. It
Right.
is our knowingness. It's how it's communicating. So cool.
And left is the martyr, sacrifice and self-reflection.
Mm.
What
Yeah.
a beautiful card.
Yes. And we usually get to that point with our bodies before we start to do
Right?
it.
I mean, yeah, for those of you listening, this is like an upside down. Yeah, that like it looks like a little pretzel. The body.
Oh, yeah.
Pretzel.
Yeah. That's great.
Oh my gosh, Sarah, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you
Mm.
for being part of this conversation.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
And those of you listening, thanks for joining me on today's journey towards a more enlightened and fulfilling life. I really hope that today's episode has inspired you to embrace your inner wisdom and navigate your path with a renewed sense of purpose. Remember, transformation begins from within. Take a moment each day to connect with your higher self and trust that the universe is guiding you towards your highest good. If you found value in today's podcast, please download it, subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast in this episode with anyone who might benefit from this message. Your support helps us to reach more souls on their spiritual journey. Stay connected with our community on social media. Both Sarah and my links will be in the show notes. You can visit my website at foreverchangecoaching.com for additional resources, upcoming events, and more ways to stay inspired. You can also receive a resource to check out if you are ready for a big ass up level in your business and your life. There's journal prompts. Go to my website and you can get that. And until the next time, continue to shine your light and walk in peace and love. I am Francine Tirrell, and this has been Effin' Fridays with Francine. Sarah, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.